Okay, today we're going to make mother's rolls, and this is a recipe that's probably at least 100 years old. I remember when I was a child, maybe 7 or 8 years old, I remember my mother sitting at the table with a bowl between her legs and a wooden spoon, and she would beat this batter for these rolls for at least a half an hour. And I thought those were the greatest rolls I'd ever tasted. And as I got older, I made those same rolls, and I tried to do it the way she did it, but it was a lot of work to make rolls in those days. Now it's much easier. Over here we have a KitchenAid mixer that does most of the work for you and makes life a lot simpler. I've also got some of the other items that would be required that I use to make the rolls. My mother didn't have an instant read thermometer, but that's something that had came along, and that helped take out the guesswork the water warmth was concerned. So you have a KitchenAid mixer, you have an instant read thermometer, and you've got some measurements up. Now we'll talk about the thermometer and how that's used in a few minutes. But along here I've pre-mixed everything so that we have to take time to go through and measure the ingredients. So we've got 1 cup of water, and that water needs to be pressure temperature. We'll talk about that in a minute. We've got instant yeast. Once it's dissolved in the water, it becomes active, maybe. And then we have sugar. We have 1/4 cup of sugar and 1 egg beaten, and flour. 3½ cups of flour. Now, let's talk about the water. The water can activate the yeast. The water can't be too hot or too cool. It needs to be it used to be somewhere between 105 degrees Fahrenheit and 115 degrees Fahrenheit. So, you look at the water now, it's 76 degrees. So, let's give it a nuke and see what happens. Hopefully don't make it too hot. But like I say, ideally it's somewhere between 105 and 115 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, it's not, the world doesn't come to an end if it turns out that it's 120, but and maybe it's not quite 105. And we'll get it as close as we can without picking up too much. What we're going to do now is proof the yeast, and it takes a little while. It's worth it because you kind of, as long as you know that that your yeast is working for you. It's 107 degrees. Give it a little sugar. While we put the sugar in, the yeast feeds on the sugar. Now we'll wait. I'm going to give this maybe the yeast is beginning to bubble, which means that it's good. It's healthy. So I'm going to go ahead and start mixing the ingredients. So we've got the yeast in there. We've got the sugar in there. We've got eggs in there. 1 egg beaten. Okay, we'll get that going. Add the butter. And we're going to add a little salt. Okay, everything's in there except the flour. Now we don't add all the flour at once. We'll try to add it gradually. Otherwise, if we add it all at once, we'll have flour all over the kitchen. And also with this KitchenAid mixer, the mixer will tell you when you have enough flour. And we'll talk about that when we get to that point. But start out. If you notice, the batter is poured away from the sides of the bowl. That's the way that's letting you know that things are working the way they should, and it'll tell you that's going to be our guide is when we put enough flour in. Actually, it should end up that we've got all the flour. Don't have too much more than we really need. But when we get to the point that we've got enough flour, the batter will pull away from the Let's see how that does. Look down in the can. See how the bowl is shining down at the bottom? That's telling you that you're almost there. You don't need much more flour. I think that's probably where I'm going to stop. Now, if you overbeat it, the rolls will be dry. So I try to take it off before it gets too much, and then I work it by hand. The flour helps me get it off of the and we use the dough itself to now this cloth is used to roll out the dough. It keeps the dough from sticking to the sink. It also, so what I'm going to try and do is work this dough a little bit so that it comes together, and it shouldn't be too sticky, so it feels real good. Is that me? Anyway, all right, I think we're about there. It feels about right. And I want you to pay attention to the size of this ball. Because what we have to do before we can make our roll, we have to let this dough rise. And first rise, it should double its bulk. Now that would be something like this, something like that. You can kind of visualize that. But I made a batch yesterday, and I want to show you what it looks like after it had risen. That's what the dough will look like after it has risen. That ball becomes this. So we're going to put this one in here and let it rise. And you kind of coat it with a little oil.
How long did you let it rise?
Well, this is normally that one that I just put up there. If I leave it out of the refrigerator, it will rise in about 2 hours and be ready to roll out. But I put this one in the refrigerator before I went to bed, and that slows down the rise. So now I'm going to cut this in half.
Music that we're hearing is
My cell phone. I think.
and we forgot to turn it off.
Maybe I'll go back to the sink, because what this is doing is the cloth is preventing it from actually getting thinner. I may have to go with it. Okay, cut the rolls. Okay, I'm going to take each roll, dip it in butter, fold it over, and put it into the dish. Well, I think that's about it. Now we have rolls that are ready for the second rise. They have to rise again, just like we did the first time. And this rise should take about 2 hours. And they should double their bulk, and they will be sitting up at about this height. And they'll be ready to bake about 10:30. So what we'll do is cover that with a cloth towel, put it somewhere warm. Did you get that before I covered it up?
I did. You're fast. I got it.
So let's put this, the oven is not on, and the temperature will be stable, it won't be getting any draft. So we'll let it rise in there for a couple hours.
Oh wait, the plates are in here, right? Come on.
I don't know where they got the plates
Now
from.
the plates are the kids' plates. The tables, I think.
Oh, they're the kids. Where's the adult plates?
Oh, they are.
On the table.